We are here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to celebrate 90 years of Steelers football. And I think that's worth a round of applause. Some great memories over the years, some amazing accomplishments, and 6 Super Bowl championships, so never lose sight of that. We have a great program in store for you, the legends and family members here tonight, and I'd like to recognize some of them. Please welcome the Ray Kemp family, Danny, Scott, and Perry Kemp, who are seated here at this table. Ray, if you didn't know, was the first African-American to play for the Steelers back in 1933, and one of the greats of the game. We also have Bill Dudley's son, James. James, would you please stand up? Bullet Bill Dudley. So how about this? NFL MVP in 1946. And I'll ask you to ask yourself, have you ever seen these accomplishments? He led the league in rushing. He led the league in interceptions. Think about that. And he led the league in punt returns. Now, how many people do you know who've done all 3 of those things? Which is why he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thank you to the Dudley family. We also have Jack Butler's son, Steelers scout Mike, here tonight. Would you please stand up? Jack was one of the best undrafted free agents in the history of not only the Steelers but the league. So undrafted in 1951, he went on to become a 4-time Pro Bowler and a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Not many people that you know that can be undrafted into Hall of Fame status. And I think there's another one on the verge of that, and that would be James Harrison. At least I hope so down the road, because he's made some great things, an undrafted player. Please welcome North Braddock native and Pitt alum, linebacker Bill Priatko, who played for the Steelers in 1957. Also one of the men who kept alive the Coach's Corner banquet that we do every year. He's had a lot to do with that, and the late Dan McCann, who was the heart and soul of that, and I know you kind of taken that over on your own, so thank you for that very much, Bill. Please welcome John Henry Johnson's daughter, Catherine. She's right over here looking beautiful. I told Catherine when she came in, I said, you have beautiful skin. I look at skin because I wear a lot of makeup, and I wonder if I'm overdoing it sometimes. So, just a funny story, when I came in here tonight, I said, Catherine, you don't need it. I do. It's crazy, because some lady came up to me and said, oh, are you wearing makeup? I said, yes. She said, well, no, Joy, it's true. I don't shy away from that. I wear makeup, and it's just the way it is on television. But she said, it's a little too much like Tammy Faye Baker, is what she told me. And I said, oh, no, I got orange. I said, I got to stop that. My wife would not be proud of that, but John Henry played in the 1960s. Was a 4-time Pro Bowl selection and elected in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're great to have you here tonight. So thank you, representing John Henry's family. From the 1970s, please welcome the family of Hall of Fame coach Chuck Noll, his wife Mary Ann, son Chris, and daughter-in-law Linda, who are right here in the front row. One of the great coaches of all time, but more than that, one of the great people of all time. Mary Ann and Chris, nice to see you guys. Our next guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. A 4-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and Pro Football Hall of Famer, number 75, Joe Greene, is right here in the front. The foundation of all this success here in this city. We also have a man who is very recognizable by his hat selection and the fact that at age 74, I think he can still play. And I guarantee you that not many receivers would have success against you even now. A 4-time Super Bowl champ, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and a 5-time Pro Bowler. Please welcome Hall of Famer Mel Blount. A man who had everyone change the rules because they couldn't keep up. They couldn't stop him. From the 1980s, please welcome the Steelers radio analyst, host of In the Locker Room, one and only Craig Wolfley. He was right over here. Woo. Also, in that same table from the 1980s, he went to law school while playing cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not many people do that, but he took the time to do it, made a great career from it. Allegheny County Court's judge. Here come the judge, it's Dwayne Woodruff. Representing the 1990s, two-time Pro Bowler, a member of the NFL's 1990s All-Decade Team, one of the best inside linebackers, also at this table, Levon Kirkland. Steelers have had a great history with linebackers, star players at that position. We have another one with us. He's a three-time Pro Bowler from the 1990s, Jason Gilden, right next to Levon. Thank you, Jason, for being here. Our next guest made an incredible toe-tapping catch that, Gene Kelly would have been proud of to secure the team's 6th Super Bowl trophy. One Super Bowl 43 was MVP of Super Bowl 43. Please welcome wide receiver Santonio Holmes. One of the greatest catches in the history of any Super Bowl. The Steelers have so many plays that could be remembered as iconic. That was one of them. Our next guest won a national championship with Ohio State before playing with Tampa Bay, Dallas, and then came to Pittsburgh and did a great job. Please welcome Will Allen, right over here to our left. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a nice round of applause for all of our legends here tonight and their family members who have been kind enough to join us and celebrate 90 years of Pittsburgh Steeler history. So as a special treat to all of you, we're going to bring up some of these guys to have some stories. They're always great stories, and you're going to hear some of them from some of our alumni here. But before I do that, I would like to recognize some very special guests. We have the president of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Art Rooney II, along with his lovely wife, Greta, here tonight. Would you please stand up, Art and Greta Rooney? Art's going to come up here in a second. Also, we have with us Jim Rooney, who has a great book out. If you've not checked it out, you should check it out. Jim, wherever you are, how about a nice hand for Jim Rooney? And a man who I think is going to be in the Hall of Fame here soon, longtime general manager. You don't do this for as long as he did with the amount of success and not be a Hall of Famer, Kevin Colbert, who is now in retirement. He's got a scratch handicap now, as I heard from many people. He's taking his golf game to a whole new level. Omar Khan, are you here? I don't know if Omar left or if he's here, please stand up. He's the new general manager, long time, best capologist in the game, but he's now in that position. So Omar, thank you. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I know a man who enjoys these nights because he's always talking about the history of this franchise and what a great history it is. Please welcome Steelers President Art Rooney II.
Thank you, Bob. Great to see everybody here tonight. 90 seasons, pretty amazing. And it's so great that so many families came back to represent the early decades. Ray Kemp was on the first team, so great to have his family back. And of course, we're so lucky to have so many great alumni. We could have filled about 3 or 4 more rooms with them, but it's great to have so many people back from all of the different decades. It's going to be a special weekend here at Acrisure Stadium. Big Pitt game tomorrow night, and then a big game against the Jets on Sunday, and we'll get to introduce our alumni to the fans, and I think it'll be a great part of a Steeler Sunday. So thank you all for being here. Obviously appreciate your helping us raise money for the UPMC Concussion Clinic, and Dr. Mickey Collins and his team are here. Great to see you, Mickey. Thanks for everything you do to make our athletes safer in our community. And of course, thanks to all of our sponsors for helping make this a successful night. Great to see you. We'll see you on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Always appreciate those great words. And before we bring up some of the guys to talk about their memories as you enjoy your dinners, we want you to sit back and enjoy a video presentation celebrating the Steelers' first 90 years. Check it out.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city of steel. Molten steel that is the city's economic lifeblood. The Pittsburgh Steelers have always provided excitement. A team that has captured its fans with hard-nosed, steel-tough football.
For 90 seasons, the Pittsburgh Steelers have forged a history unmatched in the National Football League. Decades of legendary players and coaches established a legacy of success in Pittsburgh, which continues to grow for future generations.
Steelers first round selection, Joe Greene.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are the champions of the National Football League for the 4th time.
Throws the pass, and it's intercepted. Good Polamalu at the front. Throws it back corner of the end zone. Santonio with a touchdown. Santonio Holmes. The Pittsburgh Steelers have won the Super Bowl for a 6th time.
A tradition of excellence for 90 seasons, as strong as steel.
90 seasons in the book. Looking forward to the next 90, but we have a lot of celebration here to do with the first 90. And we're going to have a little opportunity to talk to some of these guys here. I'd like to bring up 3 outstanding Steelers over the years to partake in a little bit of discussion about some of their favorite moments being in black and gold. Please welcome Joe Greene, Craig Wolfley, and Dwayne Woodruff. Would you guys please come to the stage and interrupt your consuming of your dinners? We're going to talk right now. Yeah, come on up. Joe, I feel bad now. We interrupted your dinner, but don't be mad at me. These guys have some great stories to tell, and I'm anxious to let you in on some of their little secrets regarding some of the best plays in the history of the franchise. Yeah. You good, Jason? You can pick whatever seat you want. Okay. We're going to let Joe, is he tired?
Wherever Joe wants to sit, he sits, okay?
That's what I just told him. He can take this seat if he wants it. So, Craig, you're in this media business now, so you know how to get good stuff out of players. But the first thing I want to talk about is that we just saw the play of the Immaculate Reception. Joe, you happened to be on the field during that, of course. And legend has it that you were so excited that Franco Harris picked that ball out of the air after it was batted back because Jack Tatum and Frenchie Fuqua, whoever touched it first, that'll go down in history as one of the best controversies, but called a touchdown. Someone told me that you outraced Franco Harris to the end zone. You were that excited. True or false?
I told you that.
That means it's true. Who's gonna go against Joe Greene?
Yes, that was a moment in our development for sure. On that particular, well, let me set the stage for you. It was 2 minutes to play, I think, and the Raiders brought in a new quarterback, Kenny Stabler. The guy that had been playing quarterback wasn't doing very well because we had shut them out, and they brought in Kenny Stabler. And on this particular play, we called a blitz, and we blitzed Kenny, and we lost contain. That means that we had no edge for the play. He got outside of our last guy, And he really did stumble 40 yards into the end zone for a touchdown and put him ahead 7-6. And when we got the ball back, it was probably, I'm saying a minute or close to it. And I'm thinking that while I was on the sideline, I was walking in the space where the coaches usually walk, and Coach Noel was always telling me to get out of the way. But I was standing there, and I was talking to, as the play was unfolding, I was talking to John Rouser, who was a defensive back for us at the time, and I said, John, this is, it can't end this way. And the reason for me saying that is that 72 was such a special year for us. I had been on the team since 69, and we never won more than the previous 3 seasons, we'd never won more than 5 ball games. And this was our first venture into the playoffs. And I just said, this is such a special season, it's not going to end this way. And as I was watching Terry scramble around, avoiding would-be tacklers, and he finally got the ball released from his hands, and it came sailing towards Frenchie and the defender. And the ball went over Frenchie's head, and he hit the defensive back that was behind him. Later on, I found out that it was Jack Tatum. When the ball bounced, I'm looking at the ball, and I'm on about the 40-yard line, the Raider side, 45, somewhere in there. And Franco was running on his route, and he was around between the 40 and the 35. And when the ball came down, Franco caught it. And he took off running, and I took off running. And I know that in retrospect, Franco never would have started to run if he didn't catch the ball. Point blank, for sure. And I would not have started running to outrace him to the end zone if I thought he didn't catch the ball. So that's what I thought. That's what I thought, and I never worried about what the outcome was going to be because it was a touchdown. And, there's been a lot of speculation about did he catch it or didn't he catch it? Did the ball bounce off of Frenchie? Whole lot of speculation. But whatever happened, that play in the 100 years of the National Football League was voted the greatest play in the history of the National
How about that? And Joe Greene beat Franco to the end zone. We don't have, I got to find video of that, though. That's what I got to do. So that was one of the great things. Craig, you know a lot about these guys. After you get to know Joe Greene, it's hard to imagine that someone would call him Mean Joe Greene. He doesn't seem mean to me. Does he seem mean to you?
I can only tell you, okay, as a young man growing up and watching the career from a distance of Mean Joe Greene, the battles he had here and there, but I will never forget, and I was just relating this to him earlier tonight when we were doing the radio. I said, do you remember my senior year was 79 in Syracuse, New York, and I watched the Pittsburgh Steelers lay waste to the Denver Broncos in Mile High. And I said, I'm watching this play unfold, and I see Joe Greene is getting all kind of like worked up and getting a little upset. And all of a sudden, he walks into the Denver huddle, and he says something to this guy, Paul Howard, the guard, right? And then he just, bam, just punches him out. The guy drops, right? Everybody in the Denver huddle stepped back, and they went, hey, ref, do something about that guy. Such was his impact. That was who I saw, Joe Greene and everything else. The next year, then I'm drafted. And then I come to Pittsburgh, to St. Vincent College. And great googly moogly, I got to tell you something. The first time he laid hands on me, I think I almost passed out. He did live up to the moniker Mean Joe Greene, but he's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. He's a true teammate, a great friend, and he was truly the leader of that whole 70s crew. There was nobody like him.
Yeah, definitely. Foundation piece, 10-time Pro Bowler. So, Dwayne, you came to Pittsburgh a little after that. Just tell us your take on what it was like to be with that team, and what did that game do to trigger the success of the 1970s? Because I think that play, that game, proved to you guys that, you know, you could win with just about anybody you played.
Well, you know, that particular team had a number of Hall of Famers and great players. You know, one of the things I knew coming in, I would learn from the guys before me, and I looked across on the other side of the field, and I saw the guy with the big hat here. He didn't wear the hat during the game, but Mel Blount, you know, he taught all the defensive backs what to do, and he would always come. He says, if the coach said something, he says, "What, you know, listen to what he says, but do what I tell you to do." And so that's exactly what we did. And I do remember a quick story about Joe. You know, he earned that name. You know, me and Joe Greene. We happened to be down in Houston. And they were in it to us pretty good. And it was only a few seconds ago, and they were like on our third 3 or 4 yard line going in, getting ready to score. And there was like 10 seconds left to go on the clock. And Joe stood up. He didn't go in the stands. He stood up, and I said, "Man, what's Joe? We got to get down. They're getting ready to run the play." And Joe pointed to Dan Pastorini. He says, "If you run a play again, I'm coming over there after you." And Dan looked around at his offensive lineman, and then he looked over and saw the sideline was a little far away, and he had his hands under the center getting ready to call the play, and he looked at Joe, and Joe was standing up looking at him. He just backed up, didn't run another play, and then let the clock run out because Joe was going after him. I'll tell you. But, you know, he earned that name, but one of the things about Joe is, you know, he led that defense, and he led the team. I'm not lying on you, never.
I know you're not. You're the judge. You're not the
That's
judge.
right.
You don't lie. But, you know, I knew that, I thought that only me and Dan knew about that play.
Oh, yeah, well,
And they were on our 1 yard line, and they had the game won. And if they would have decided to go for the touchdown, that would have just been piling on. And instead of getting in my stance, I just stood up and said, "Dan, kneel. Kneel. That means get down on your knees. Don't snap the ball." And he did that, and he looked over at Baum, and I think Baum might have told him to do the same. And they went down, and they sat on the ball, and they didn't score. And I shook Dan's hand afterwards, and that was good sportsmanship. We had some battles with those guys, regardless of what the score was. Regardless of what the score was, the record, whether we had the good record or they had the good record, it didn't matter. It was going to be a knockdown, drag out. And that game was until that point when Dan showed the sportsmanship that they showed us many times. So you saw that, huh?
Oh, yeah, I saw it. I definitely saw it. I don't know how much sportsmanship had to play in it. I think it was a little nervous about what was going to happen if he happened to run another play. So I think that's sort of why they kneeled down.
So, Dwayne, I want to compliment you. You're a 6th-round pick out of Louisville, right? That's what it was, and you turned out to be what is it about being one of those guys who is not a number 1 pick, not a 2, you're a 6th-round pick, and you ended up having such a great career and winning championships? How do you do that, knowing that the odds are stacked against you?
But, you know, one of the things about coming to the Steelers, you know, before I came here, I wasn't a Steeler fan. My dad was born and raised in Texas.
Cowboys.
And you know, both of us were extremely upset the year before. You know, when the Cowboys got beat by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and when I called my dad, and because at that time ESPN had just started, so the draft was on the radio, and so I'm listening to the draft on the radio, and right before the Steelers had the last pick, I said, I know they're not picking me. So a friend of mine, Nathan Poole, got drafted by Cincinnati, got up, and we were leaving to go get something to eat, and I got a phone call. And George Perlis is on the line, says, we just drafted you to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I thought it was a joke. I said, yeah, right. You guys ain't getting me. I said, so I hung the phone up. And then I'm walking out the door, and right before I got out, the phone rang again. And George said, don't hang up. This is really the Pittsburgh Steelers. We drafted you to the Steelers. And I was excited. I said, man, this is great, and being drafted. And then I started thinking about, the teammates and what kind of team the Steelers had. Just won the Super Bowl, and, Joe Greene came to mind, and Mel Blount, and Donnie Shell, and L.C. Greenwood. And I said, man, this is a bad team. And I'm not a bad person. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to fit in with these guys. And so instead of going out to eat, me and Nathan, we went out. We left the dorm room, and we went out and started working out. I said, I got to be ready, when I get there. And so every time I'm running sprints and laps and different things, and at the end of it, I started giving my mean face, because I got to be mean when I get to the Steelers, and because I don't want them, jumping on me, because I seen Joe Greene jump on people before, and I said, I don't want them jumping on me because I'm not ready. And so I got ready and finally got here, and everything worked out. And everything that I thought in my mind was true about these guys. And I'm just happy, I had some great guys to teach me the ropes and teach me what I need to do and how to do it. And you become a better player, you become a better person, you become a better man. And these guys led the way for me.
Oh, awesome. And what you've meant here to Pittsburgh, the fact that you've gone on in law, you worked as a player, and you created another career for yourself is pretty unbelievable. And you have a great wife in Joy, who picked out your tie tonight, by the way, and I complimented her on that. It's a very nice tie. Oh, yeah. Craig, last word to you. And you've now gone into broadcasting after a really good career, and I want to compliment you. I was looking at videos today. You took on Butterbean, which I didn't know once. I didn't know you were a martial arts person. I didn't know you had a jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
I can't even say it. You're a good, you've done sumo wrestling, which I didn't know.
That's a really bad visual. Thanks for bringing that up, okay?
But I saw these pictures and I said, these are things I didn't know about Craig Wolfley. So how does it feel now to be in the other side of it as a media person, and you do a great job on the broadcast?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here with everybody. I simply just can't say thank you enough to Mr. Rooney and the Steelers, because I could never give back all that he has given to me and my family, the opportunity to be able to do the things that we've done. To be a Steeler is everything. It's just an incredible feeling, because as Mr. Rooney, Mr. DMR said one time, a long time ago, once a Steeler, always a Steeler. And they've always made you feel a part of that family, and I'm forever grateful for that.
That makes it special. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Joe Greene, Dwayne Woodruff, and Craig Wolfley. Wait a minute, you have one last say.
Yes,
Joe,
I do.
Hold on.
I have the mic right now, Mr. Blount. Mel came to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1970, and he was the second-round draft choice. Hey, I got the mic now. I can talk about you. And he was the cowboy from Jump Street. Boots and jeans and, the plaid shirt that goes with being a cowboy, and the hat. And he had the boots on. And I said, boy, I could make a man out of this guy. So I took him down to, I think it was on 5th. It was called the Coach House. I took him down there to get him dressed up. Had him put a suit on, and he got in front of the mirror. At 6'2" and 180 pounds, he was cut pretty good. And he looked at himself in the mirror and he said, gee, look up there. I look good. And when he saw himself in the mirror, look at him right now. Stand up, Mel.
Mel, go ahead.
He loves wearing those suits. We got rid of everything but the hat and the boots. But that's my man, Mr. Blount. Super duper.
Super duper Mel Blount. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Having a nice hand here for Joe Greene, Dwayne Woodruff, and Mr. Craig Wolfley. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. Just so you know, gentlemen, the raffle is now sold out, so you don't need to ask about more purchases because it is completely sold out. So we're looking forward to the results of that jersey raffle coming up. Before we bring up some of the other guys, we have an announcement concerning that jersey raffle and some of the other stuff going on here. Again, it closes at 9. That is sold out. We're going to reveal all the winners coming up here momentarily. So right now we have more conversation. By the way, I want to point this out too because tomorrow is an anniversary. It's Joe Greene is the only player in the National Football League to win Super Bowl championships. He has 6 rings, but also have a Clio Award for a commercial that celebrates an anniversary tomorrow. It's one of the great commercials of all time. So I just want to throw that out at you, Joe. Very important. That was one of the great things. And now we continue with more conversation. We have 3 guys I want to bring up to the stage, beginning with Santonio Holmes, Super Bowl MVP, Levon Kirkland, and Will Allen. These guys will talk about some of their great memories as well. So gentlemen, would you please come up to the stage, take a seat? Yeah. Oh, Levon, you like a microphone, I know that. So you don't have to ask for one. All right, so I want to start with you, Santonio, that play. So, I mean, there's so many great plays that have happened in Pittsburgh Steelers history. You, on that final drive, end up with, I think, like 4 catches for 73 yards, part of your 9-reception, 131-yard Super Bowl MVP. But before that play happened, the one that everyone remembers with 35 seconds left, there was a play at the other side that did not happen. Tell us about how that all worked out with you and Ben Roethlisberger.
I mean, I would first and foremost, just want to say thank God for, this opportunity to be here, to be a part of 90 seasons of Pittsburgh history. So thank you guys for inviting me back here and being a part of this right now. We practice so many of those plays, throwing just in the back of the end zone, just on a regular basis. And in that moment, I didn't think I was open enough to have enough room to come down inbounds in the back of the end zone. And when I saw the ball come out of his hand and release, before it got to my hands, my eyes went directly to the ground. When I say, okay, I caught this ball, I've got to see where I'm landing at.
So the hardest part is catching the ball, keeping your toes in. I mean, you have to have both feet in. You were almost just horizontal.
I was running at an angle away from Ben, so I could not see where I was at that particular time. I knew I had room in the end zone, but I didn't know where I was. I didn't know my surroundings at that particular time. And for me to look back at the replay and see myself having 3 yards of grass to just play with and fall down could have made it that easy,
That was one of the great catches. You guys, I'm sure, remember that. Where were you when you saw that catch, and what was your reaction to it? Levon?
I thought it was one of the best plays ever in the Super Bowl. I think it's the #1 play, actually. But, yeah, I was at home. And once you're a Steeler, you're always a Steeler. And I saw that play, and when they scored a touchdown, I know we were going to win. We played in the Super Bowl. We didn't win it, but you felt like, man, you're a part of that. So it was an amazing play. And I met this young gentleman later on, man, and I told him, man, that was one of the best plays I ever seen. So I was at home watching the game, like an old guy does.
Did you think it was a catch, or were you worried about the feet?
I knew it was a catch. I knew it was a catch.
What about you, Will?
I watched Santonio grow up at Ohio State, and watching him make the plays. He was making those catches when he was a freshman, and to see like it all come to fruition in the biggest moment at the biggest time, it was incredible. I was actually playing for the Buccaneers at the time, and I was at home watching the game. Tampa, the city of Tampa was crazy. The infrastructure was terrible. You couldn't get around anywhere. So I'm just watching and rooting on my fellow Buckeye here. And when you see the catch, you're like, this is one of the best plays you've ever seen in life. This is one of the best plays between a quarterback and a receiver to cut through 3 defenders and to get your toes that close to the line. That's a professional football play. And that's how you know that. And then to do it for the Pittsburgh Steelers was incredible. It's just incredible. Yeah. Incredible history.
What has that play meant for you? I mean, I'm sure people everywhere you go, regardless of anything else, that's the first thing they talk about with you, isn't it?
Wow.
Changed your life. It had to have changed your life. MV, how many guys are Super Bowl MVPs, especially wide receiver? You and Hines Ward, very few.
To put it all in perspective, before that game-winning drive, all I could think about was my childhood moment where I got the chance to witness that Super Bowl in 1995. And all I kept saying to myself that if I was a wide receiver playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that would never happen to me. And in that moment, when I stood up and I started telling myself, and I didn't realize that I was mic'd up, that it's time to be great, and who's daring to be great right now, all of those moments were flowing through my head just thinking about, wow, you've asked to be in this moment as a child. You've played in national and state championship games in high school. You went to watch guys play in the national championship game, but now you're in the pinnacle. You can't play in no other game, no further, no bigger stage than this moment right now. What are you going to do? And this was my moment that I prayed to God that I would be that savior for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I won't lose the Pittsburgh Steelers. I won't lose the Super Bowl for the Steelers.
And you came through with flying colors on one of the best catches in the history of the game. So awesome.
It had a lot
Awesome
to do
job.
with that guy that wears that jersey number 7. He
what a
unbelievable.
throw.
You guys can give him praise because I give him praise every day. Everyone give me praise about that catch. Like
Wow.
Will said,
There
without
was
him
such a
being
small
able
window
to,
there.
without
there's
him being
hardly any
able
room.
to see me standing in the back corner of the end zone where only one person had an opportunity to catch a football, and to pinpoint and precisely dart a football in the middle of the biggest stage of the history of football for a win. And to have confidence to come back to me after that play that we just talked about, where I dropped it. And I remember walking in the huddle and all the guys standing around. Heath Miller tapped me on my hip. Man, don't worry, Tone. He's going to come to you the next play. Yeah, okay, whatever. We got Hines Ward here. Hines come in the huddle. He said, it's all right, man. It's all right. You're going to be all right, you know. He'll get back to you. Maweldi comes running in the huddle. Come on, Tone. You can make them plays. Right? 7 comes in the huddle and just stares at me. And the minute he called that play, I knew he was throwing that football to me. We had practiced this play from February of 2008. After practice, every day, that's all we did was win and throw corner routes for touchdowns. Every day after practice. All summer, all throughout the season, every day after practice. We called this play in practice the first playoff game of the season. And it was an incomplete pass in practice. And Coach Randy Fiedner told me, don't worry, just don't catch the ball again when we throw it to you. And I'm trying to figure out why. And we ran this play every day in practice. And this was one of our last plays every day at practice and the same results. The last day of Super Bowl practice, 2009. We throw this play in practice in the corner of the end zone, the same exact place. And all I did was put my hands up and bend, throw the ball, and it goes right through my hands. We walked to the huddle, we did victory, celebration, and we went home. Bruce Arians had the guts to call that play. 2nd down and 6 in the Super Bowl to win the game. That's how much confidence he had in us that we can do it.
And the rest is history. One of the most iconic plays. So, Levon, I want to ask you, you came to Pittsburgh. I don't know if you guys know this, but you look at he's a guy who should be in the College Football Hall of Fame. If you combine what he did in the pros and he absolutely should. He's in the Ring of Honor down at Clemson. But you wore number 99, which I never understood for a linebacker. Maybe you can tell us why that is. I always thought 50s were the numbers.
Well, at that time it was, but after preseason, my first year, I had number 45. And at that time, you couldn't wear any 40 numbers. And so Tony calls me in the back. He said, well, we got to change the number. You got to get another number. I'm like, cool. So he has like 4 different numbers laid out: 58, 59, 56, and 99. So I come in there. He said, pick one. And I'm like, really? Just pick one? He's like, yeah. I look at 58. Ain't no way in hell I'm getting that jersey. That's Jack Lambert. Man, I can't live up to that. No way. And then I go to 59. No way in hell I'm wearing that number. That's Jack Ham. That's one of my heroes. I love Jack Ham. Then it came down to 56 and 99. And I looked at 56. I was like, that's Lawrence Taylor. It's one of my guys. But I looked at 99. And I wore 44 in college. And I'm like, and it was a number that a lot of guys didn't really wear at linebacker. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a cool number. It was kind of like a rebel number. And I'm like, I'm gonna wear it. I say 99. I go to practice the first day. Everybody is looking at me like, why are you wearing 99? I mean, everybody. I mean, Greg Lloyd had 95. He rocked it. I'm like, don't worry. It's going to grow on you. And that's the reason why I picked number 99. I thought it was a bad number. It was close to 100. I mean, it was close to 100. I mean, it was an A+. So I was like, I need to get this number 99. And the rest is kind of history. It just kind of rocked it. And you know, me being a big linebacker, it just kind of fit.
Yeah. So you mentioned Greg Lloyd. Did you guys tell me stories about Greg Lloyd that you guys might have had? You had some pretty good inside linebackers. Chad Brown had snakes all over the place. I remember that. Did you ever encounter a snake?
Well, I have encountered a snake. I mean, it's kind of a gruesome story, but this is one of Wolfley's favorite stories. Wolfley, should I tell the story about Greg Lloyd?
Uh-oh.
Okay, now.
People are still eating now, remember that.
Okay, so my second year in the league, I won the inside linebacker job, but David Little got released. Yeah. So David's been there for like 12 years. And you know, people were kind of like a little upset that I was gonna be the starting linebacker. But I ended up being the starting linebacker, but you got to understand, when you're in a group with a bunch of alpha males, there's always the alpha of the alpha males. Greg Lloyd was the alpha of all the alpha males. He was cut up. I mean, it was like God just took his time and just drew six-pack after six-pack after six-pack. And he was kind of a dark guy, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he just had this thing. He was like the original villain. I mean, people in the league were actually scared of him. Not only people he went against, but teammates, like myself. Because he had like, he was like a 3rd-degree black belt in Taekwondo. So this was, I mean, like all the stuff you want to put into a bad man, he was that. Had a rough background. I'm from a good background with mom and dad and all that stuff, Christian family, whatever. I wear glasses. I'm like the nice guy linebacker. So, man, Greg would get on me every day when I was starting that year. And so after a while, I'm a man too, so I get a little fed up. So we're playing the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm in front of the huddle. You got to know I can't really see that well, so I call the huddle kind of loud because I can't see. So I call, tight will me two buster, ready, break. We break out of the huddle, I turn around. Kevin's always asking me, hey, Kirk, what's the play? I'm like, damn, Kevin, I just told you 2 seconds ago. So I was talking to Kevin. I say, it's tight will me two buster. Greg looks back at me. He said, Kirk, stop calling the huddle so damn loud. I'm embellishing a little bit. But there was an angel and a devil that popped on my shoulder. And they was like, hey, Kirk, man, you ain't gonna take that from him no more, man. And that's the devil talking to me. The angel on the other side was like, yeah, Kirk, don't take that from him no more. I was like, yeah, you're right. And they poof, went away. And so I looked at G. Lloyd, I said, hey, G. He looked back at me, he said, what? I said, I called this huddle as loud as I want to. And he looked back at me, he said, F you. I'm like, F you. There's a play going on right now. They're running a play, and we are talking trash to each other. So we won the game, but I know there's some consequences. So I'm like, let's go and get dressed real quick, go home, and we'll decide what to do tomorrow. So I got in the shower, I went, got dressed real quick, drove off, and I'm safe. But I know I gotta face Greg when I get to the locker room. So I'm thinking, what would Ric Flair do in this situation? So the next morning, I go to the gym. And we had a workout, it's a Monday, we working out, sure enough. Greg Lloyd is working out in our little gym at the time. He got his shirt off, sweating, looking mean, just pumping it out. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to fight this guy. I'm gonna have to fight him. I'm gonna have to fight G. Lloyd. So I go in the locker room, and I put my helmet behind my back, and I'm like, I'm gonna get cut, I'm gonna get released, but I'm not gonna let him chop me or any of that karate stuff. His locker is right like in front of mine, across the locker room. We're across from each other. He has a towel on, he's ripped up. And I go, and I'm like, he's walking toward my locker. I'm like, oh my God. I'm gonna have to hit this dude with his helmet. I'm just gonna hit him. I know I'm gonna lose my job, everything, but he ain't gonna karate chop me to death. And so he comes up to me, he said, that's what I'm talking about. You don't take no trash off nobody. And just left. And I'm like, oh my God, that actually happened. And from that point on, I had his respect. And that's the story. It's a true story, I guarantee you.
That's amazing. So Will, I want to ask you about your career in Pittsburgh, what it meant to you, but also I want to commend you because like so many other Pittsburgh Steelers who give back to me, your foundation and the work, ladies and gentlemen, he does a great job raising money for so many charities. And I think that's worth mentioning because not a lot of people will do it on their own. You and your wife have been great about that. Tell us about that and also your career in Pittsburgh, what it meant to you.
So Mike Tomlin was my secondary coach when I was in Tampa. And I mean, I was 21. He shows up at my pro day and he's got this nasty, salty Tampa Bay hat. And he's a young secondary coach and, they had just won a Super Bowl 2 years before. And he just comes up to me and says, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm Coach Tomlin, Tampa Bay secondary coach. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Because I'm about to go run my 40, do all these drills and things. And he just started running my stats down, everything about me. He knew he said, I've been watching your tape. I see you sacked here. I see you did this. I calling out my plays, the games, everything. And he's a secondary coach. He said, we want you. He said, what do you think you're going to run in a 40? I said, well, Coach, I don't know, man. I'm hoping, high 4.4s, low 4.5s, something good. And he said, well, we think we're going to draft you in the 3rd or 4th round. He said, a lot of folks got you, 4th round to 7th round, but we think we're going to get you 3rd or 4th. And he said, what you think you're going to run again? I said, man, I hope I run a 4.4, 4.5. He said, if you run 4.7, you won't get drafted. And this is right before I'm about to run my 40. And that's how I met Coach Tomlin. But being in his secondary room, I could tell he was ready to be a head coach. And he and I just grew a bond together. Like, he really taught me about life and taught me about how to learn defense and, how to be disciplined and focused within it and draw out of me the best characteristics and attributes I had as a player, and I really thrived. So then when he left Tampa to go be a D coordinator and then become the head coach, I would call him every week. I'm like, Coach T, trade for me. I want to come play for you. I got to get out of here. I got it. And he's like, I'm coaching I'm coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then I go see him win the Super Bowl. I'm like, Coach, I got to come play for you. What's up? You got to get me out of here. And then I enter free agency, and I end up signing a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for $3 or $4 million. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this money because Steelers are not gonna pay it. They got Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark. I want to start, right? And in that offseason, I'm back in free agency, and I'm talking to Mike Tomlin. I said, we gotta make this happen. I want to win. I want to play for a winning quarterback, a winning franchise. I'm tired of losing. I'm not used to losing. This is not in my DNA. I want to win, man. And he's just like, all right, we'll get you up here. We'll make it happen. We'll get you up here. So I'm like, all right, great. So free agency starts. I talked to him. I talked to Omar. Talked to Mr. Rooney at the time, and Mr. Colbert, Kevin Colbert, and we all make it happen. We come. But here's a caveat. I joined the team, but in the offseason, I'm working out after they won the Super Bowl with all the Steelers, right? We're working out in Arizona. And I'm like, the AFC North is not that great, and, come down to the NFC South. We got Michael Vick every year. We got Steve Smith every year. We got Drew Brees and all these great players, for the Saints. After they win the Super Bowl, because I don't know the magnitude of winning the Super Bowl yet. So me and Ryan Clark and a couple other Steelers had this tension after the 2008 season. Nobody knows this. So I joined the team saying I want to win a Super Bowl, and they're like, everybody hates me day one. They're like, the whole defense is like, he's the outcast. He has to prove himself. And I'm like, what the heck? Why did I come here? This is crazy. And because I was talking crap against them, the AFC North is not that great, because I just didn't know, right? And but every time I played the Steelers, I got beat. I'm just, this is just me being delusional. So James Ferrier, Larry Foote, Casey Hampton, Ike Taylor, Troy, everybody are, they're just OTAs are just I'm over here. Will Allen's, the team's over here. You got to earn it. Just like me and Joe said, we're going to see what type of man you are. We're going to see what you're going to do. That was still prevalent in 2010. They're like, you got to earn it. You got to show us. We done laid it down for 8-10 years, winning Super Bowls, winning AFC championships. You got to show us what you can do. And that showed me a lot about the character of the organization. It showed me a lot about the character of the coaching staff, even prior to Mike Tomlin being there. But it was really a moment where once I proved it and showed it, they all embraced me. They all wrapped their arms around me, and I became one of them. And that really meant a lot to me. And I was like, this is what I was missing in my pro career, this brotherhood, this sense of love and character around the game of football that brings the best out of you. And it started with those guys, and that legacy continues and is built into the fabric and the culture. And so when I, Mike Tomlin always says, dive in the pool, it's cool, drink the Kool-Aid. I was like, I'm drinking it now because I want to win, and I want to win a Super Bowl, and I want to give everything I have to the franchise and to the coaches and to this community. So that was like my early experience. And after that, I'm sold. Everybody, you know, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, so all my family were Cincinnati Bengals fans. So I'm like about to fight these folks every time we go play the Bengals because they got on their Bengals jerseys. And I'm like, y'all supposed to be rooting for me, you know? And so, you know, everybody asked me what my favorite team is. I said, it's the Steelers, without a question. Like, it's unquestionable, like who you root for on Sundays. So that was like my little experience, but we had a great time, a great group of guys that I learned a lot from. They embraced me, and, you know, I got a bunch of nicknames that they call me, and, you know, it's a great, fun place, and it's high caliber, high performance outfit of organization.
Awesome job. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Santonio Holmes, Levon Kirkland, Will Allen. The great thing about it, somebody like Will, Levon, all these guys want to come back and be part of these activities, which makes it very special. You know, like Will said, he's played for other teams, but it's Pittsburgh that he comes back to. So we're very excited to have them all here, and we thank you for the memories.